The afternoon sun beat down on the Austin pavement as Jack Thompson wiped grease from his hands, staring at the vintage engine before him. Working on his 1967 Mustang always cleared his mind, a simple pleasure in his complicated billionaire life. His tech company ran itself these days, but this car needed his hands, his attention, his presence. The screaming started suddenly. Mister, please help us." Two identical little girls came running down the sidewalk, their faces red and streaked with tears. They wore matching pink shirts and looked about 6 years old. Their small hands grabbed at his arms as they gasped for breath. "Our mama won't wake up," one of them sobbed. "We shook her and shook her, but she won't open her eyes." Jack's heart seized in his chest. He dropped his tools and knelt down to their level. "Show me where." "Right now." The girls pulled him toward the small apartment building next door, a place he passed every day but never really noticed. They lived so close, yet he knew nothing about them. The building needed paint, and the stairs creaked under his weight as they climbed to the second floor. The apartment door stood open. Inside, the space was tiny but spotlessly clean despite its worn furniture. On the kitchen floor, a young woman lay motionless, her blonde hair spread around her like a halo. Her skin was pale, almost gray. Jack ran to her side and checked for a pulse. It was there, faint and rapid. "Call 911, he shouted to no one in particular, pulling out his own phone. His fingers shook as he dialed, something that never happened during business negotiations worth millions. 911, what's your emergency? A woman has collapsed. She's breathing but unresponsive. 1247 Riverside Drive, apartment 2B. His voice was steady now, focused. The twins huddled together in the corner, holding each other and crying softly. Their fear broke something in Jack's chest. His own daughter Sophie was just a year older than these girls. He knew that terror of thinking you might lose your parent. "What's your mama's name?" he asked them gently while keeping his fingers on the woman's pulse. "Rebecca," one twin whispered. "Rebecca Mitchell. We're Grace and Hope." "Grace and Hope," Jack repeated, trying to smile despite his racing heart. "Those are beautiful names. The ambulance is coming. Okay. They are going to help your mama." He grabbed a pillow from the worn couch and carefully lifted Rebecca's head onto it. Her eyelids fluttered but didn't open. On the counter, he noticed 4 empty coffee cups and a calendar covered with shift schedules from 3 different jobs. His throat tightened. The sirens grew louder outside. "Stay right here with me," Jack told the girls. "Everything's going to be okay." But as he looked at Rebecca's gray face and the poverty surrounding them, he wondered if he was lying. Some things couldn't be fixed with money. Some things required something more. Something he wasn't sure he still possessed after years of business deals and board meetings. The paramedics burst through the door, and Jack stepped back, still holding the frightened twins' hands. Would you refuse help if you were in Rebecca's shoes? Subscribe and comment your honest opinion. The ambulance screamed through Austin traffic while Jack sat in his car behind it, the twins buckled safely in his back seat. He had called his housekeeper to watch Sophie and told the girls he wouldn't leave them alone. They had nodded, too scared to speak much, their little hands clasped together. At Del Cita Medical Center, nurses rushed Rebecca through the emergency doors. Jack guided Grace and Hope to the waiting room, their fingers gripping his hands so tightly his circulation nearly stopped. He bought them juice boxes from a vending machine and sat between them on orange plastic chairs. "Is Mama going to die?" Hope whispered, her voice so small Jack almost didn't hear it. "No," he said firmly, hoping it was true. "The doctors here are the best. They are taking good care of her." Grace leaned against his arm. "Mama was sleeping a lot. She said she was just tired from work." "How many jobs does your mama have?" Jack asked carefully. 3, Hope said, counting on her fingers. "She cleans offices at night, works at the grocery store in the morning, and serves food at the restaurant for dinner. She says we need the money for rent and food." Jack's jaw clenched. 3 jobs. No wonder she collapsed. He pulled out his phone and quickly searched her name with Austin attached. A LinkedIn profile came up, sparse but showing an associate degree in business she had earned 6 years ago. Right before the twins were born, he guessed. 2 hours crawled by. The girls fell asleep against him, exhausted from crying. Jack's arm went numb, but he didn't move. His mind raced through calculations, possibilities, solutions. This was what he was good at. Fixing problems. Making things work. A doctor finally approached, a tired-looking woman with kind eyes. "Are you family?" "Neighbor," Jack said. "The girls have no one else, eh?" The doctor glanced at the sleeping twins and lowered her voice. "She has severe exhaustion, dehydration, and malnutrition. Her body simply shut down. She needs rest, proper nutrition, and she cannot continue working 3 jobs. It will kill her." "What about money?" Jack asked directly. "Hospital bills. We have payment plans and charity care options." "No need," Jack said quietly. "I'll handle all medical expenses. Whatever she needs." The doctor's eyebrows rose, but she nodded professionally. "She's awake now and asking for her daughters. You can see her briefly." Jack gently woke the girls. They stumbled sleepily through the hospital corridors until they reached Rebecca's room. She lay in the bed looking small and vulnerable, but her eyes were open and clay. When she saw her daughters, tears spilled down her cheeks. "Babies," she whispered as they climbed carefully onto her bed, one on each side. "The man helped us, Mama," Grace said. "He called the ambulance." Rebecca's gaze met Jack's over their heads. "Thank you," she said, her voice breaking. "I don't know how to thank you enough." "You don't have to thank me," Jack said, stepping closer. "But you do have to accept my help. Your hospital bills are covered. All of them. And we need to talk about getting you some support when you get home." "I can't accept that," Rebecca started, but her voice was weak, lacking conviction. "You can and you will," Jack said gently but firmly. "Because these 2 girls need their mother healthy. And right now, that means letting people help you." Rebecca looked at her daughters, then back at Jack. Fresh tears fell as she slowly nodded. "Okay," she whispered. "Okay. Thank you." 3 days passed before the hospital released Rebecca. Jack visited every day, usually bringing his daughter Sophie along. The 7-year-old had been thrilled to meet the twins, and the 3 girls bonded over coloring books and games Jack bought at the hospital gift shop. "Daddy, can Grace and Hope come play at our house?" Sophie asked on the drive home after the second visit. Jack glanced in the rearview mirror at his daughter's hopeful face. "When their mama gets better, absolutely." He had spent those 3 days making arrangements. A meal delivery service would bring nutritious food to Rebecca's apartment for the next 3 months. He had contacted a cleaning service to deep clean and organize her space. He had researched childcare options and paid for the twins to attend a quality daycare center near his home, where Sophie also went. When he picked Rebecca up from the hospital, she was quiet, almost withdrawn. The twins chatted excitedly in the back seat, but their mother simply stared out the window. "You're angry," Jack observed as he pulled up to her building. "I'm ashamed," Rebecca corrected softly. "I collapsed in front of my daughters. I failed them." "You didn't fail anyone," Jack said, parking the car. "You worked yourself nearly to death trying to provide for them. That's not failure. That's love." Rebecca's eyes filled with tears again. "You don't understand what it's like. Every month, I'm juggling bills, hoping nothing breaks, praying nobody gets sick. I have an associate degree in business that I can't use because I have no experience and no time to gain any. I'm stuck." "You were stuck," Jack said. Past tense. He helped her upstairs, the twins running ahead. When Rebecca opened her apartment door, she froze. The space was transformed. Fresh paint covered the walls. New curtains hung at the windows. The old, sagging furniture had been replaced with clean, comfortable pieces. The kitchen had been stocked with groceries. "What did you do?" Rebecca breathed, walking slowly through the rooms. "Made it easier for you to rest and recover," Jack said simply. "The twins need their space too. Growing girls deserve a nice home." "I can't pay you back for this," Rebecca said, tears streaming down her face now. Orchestrated narrative continuation emphasizing gratitude and compassion themes. "The user wants me to continue writing the story. I need to make sure Rebecca accepts the help with gratitude, as specified in the instructions. Let me continue with Chapter 3 and keep the themes of kindness and acceptance strong." "I'm not asking you to," Jack said. "But I do have a proposition. My company needs someone in our community outreach division. The position requires organization, dedication, and the ability to connect with people who are struggling. Someone who understands what it means to need help. Rebecca stared at him. "You're offering me a job." This was what money should do, he thought. Not by things, but by chances. By hope. By community. Rebecca joined him, her eyes still red from crying. "I don't know how to process all this kindness." "One day at a time," Jack said. "And maybe by paying it forward when you can." "I will," Rebecca promised, looking at the neighbors packing up their grills and folding their lawn chairs. "I absolutely will." Monday morning arrived with Rebecca's nerves on fire. She stood before her bathroom mirror, adjusting the collar of the professional blue dress Jack had insisted on buying her. The twins were already at daycare with Sophie, dropped off by Jack's housekeeper. Jack picked Rebecca up at 8:30. His Tesla was the nicest car she had ever sat in. The leather seats felt like butter, and the dashboard looked like something from a spaceship. Nervous. Jack asked if they drove through downtown Austin traffic. Terrified, Rebecca admitted. "What if I'm terrible at this job?" "You won't be," Jack said confidently. "Trust me. I've built a billion-dollar company on my ability to read people. You have exactly what we need." Thomson Technologies occupied 15 floors of a glass tower near the Colorado River. Rebecca's hands shook as they rode the elevator to the 10th floor, where the Community Outreach Division operated. Jack introduced her to the team. 5 people ranging from their 20s to their 50s, all friendly and welcoming. Her direct supervisor was a woman named Christine Park, who had kind eyes and an easy smile. "Jack told us about your situation," Christine said as she showed Rebecca to her new office, a small space with a window overlooking the river. "We're so glad you're here. Most of us came from non-profits and understand how important this work is." The morning passed in a blur of orientation, paperwork, and training. Rebecca learned about the company's charitable foundation, which gave away millions annually to various causes. Her job would involve reviewing grant applications, visiting organizations requesting funding, and coordinating volunteer events. "This is real?" she asked Christine at lunch. "I'll be helping people access money that can change their lives." "Every single day," Christine confirmed. "It's the best job in the company, in my opinion. You see the direct impact of what we do." By afternoon, Rebecca was reviewing her first grant application, a request from a women's shelter needing funds for a new playground. As she read about the children living there, many from situations like hers had been, tears blurred her vision. "This one," she told Christine. "How do we approve this?" Christine smiled. "Let's write the recommendation together." When Jack checked on her before leaving for a meeting, he found Rebecca deep in concentration, her desk covered with files and her computer screen showing budget spreadsheets. "How's day one?" he asked. Rebecca looked up, and Jack was struck by the light in her eyes. "I love it," she said simply. "Jack, thank you. Thank you for seeing something in me I couldn't see in myself." "I just opened a door," Jack said. "You're the one walking through it." That evening, Rebecca picked up the twins from daycare, where they showed her paintings they had made. Grace's was covered in hearts. Hope showed a house with 4 stick figures and a big yellow sun. "Who are these people?" Rebecca asked, pointing to the figures. "That's you, me, Grace, and Sophie," Hope said matter-of-factly. "We're a family now." Rebecca's breath caught. She looked at the simple drawing and saw her daughter's hope for something bigger than just the 3 of them. Something that included Jack and his daughter. Something that looked like a real family. She hung the picture on their refrigerator with a magnet and stood back to look at it. Maybe, she thought, maybe hope was becoming reality. 3 weeks into her new job, Rebecca was thriving. She had recommended funding for 6 grants, visited 4 organizations, and coordinated a company volunteer day at a food bank. Christine praised her work ethic and natural empathy for the people they served. But it was the evenings that were changing her life in unexpected ways. Jack had started inviting Rebecca and the twins to dinner at his house twice a week. His home was beautiful but not ostentatious, a comfortable ranch-style house in a nice neighborhood with a big backyard where the children could play. "You don't have to keep feeding us," Rebecca said one Tuesday evening as they cleaned up after dinner while the girls played outside. "I like feeding you," Jack said, loading the dishwasher. "Sophie loves having the twins around." And honestly, I enjoy the company. Rebecca handed him a plate. Can I ask you something personal? Always. Do you ever date? I mean, Sophie 7. You've been alone a long time. Jack paused, his hands stilling in the soapy water. I dated here and there over the years. Nothing serious. Most women were either intimidated by the money or only interested because of it. I could never tell if they wanted me or my bank account. That must be lonely, Rebecca said softly. It was, Jack admitted. But lately, I've been feeling less lonely. He looked at her directly. You make me remember why I loved building my company in the first place. It wasn't about the money. It was about creating something meaningful that could help people. Rebecca felt heat rise in her cheeks. I make you remember that. You live it every day, Jack said. You could have been bitter after everything you've been through. Instead, you're using your experience to help others. That's inspiring. Their hands touched in the dishwater, and neither pulled away. Outside, the children's laughter floated through the open window. I need to tell you something, Rebecca said, her voice barely above a whisper. I was married once. The twins' father left when they were 6 months old. Said he couldn't handle the responsibility. I haven't heard from him since. For years, I thought I was unlovable. That something was wrong with me. Nothing is wrong with you, Jack said firmly. He was a fool who walked away from the best thing that could have happened to him. Rebecca met his eyes, seeing sincerity there. You really believe that? I know it, Jack said. The moment stretched between them, full of possibility. Then Sophie buzzed through the back door, breaking the spell. Daddy, can the twins sleep over on Friday? Please, please, please. Jack and Rebecca both laughed. We'll see, Jack said. That's up to their mom. Can we, Mama? Hope called from the doorway, Grace nodding eagerly beside her. Maybe, Rebecca said, smiling at their excited faces. Later, as Jack drove them home, the twins fell asleep in the back seat. Rebecca watched Austin's lights pass by the window. I never thought my life could look like this, she said quietly. 2 months ago, I was drowning. Now I have a job I love, a safe home, and friends. Real friends. You deserve all of it, Jack said. And more. What more could there be? Rebecca asked, then felt her face flush, realizing how that sounded. Jack glanced at her, his eyes warm. I guess we'll have to wait and see. Are you subscribing to see where this beautiful story goes? Hit that button and let us know your thoughts in the comments. 2 months into her new life, Rebecca sat in her office reviewing a grant application that made her heart ache. A single father had requested funds for his sick daughter's medical expenses. The story was heartbreaking, but it was a man's words that struck her deepest. I'm trying so hard to be enough, he had written, but I'm failing her. Rebecca knew that feeling. She had lived it. Without hesitating, she marked the application for full approval and added a note requesting expedited processing. That evening, she mentioned it to Jack over dinner at his house. The meal together had become a routine now, happening almost every night. Rebecca had stopped questioning it. The girls were happy, and she looked forward to these evenings more than she wanted to admit. I want to do more, Rebecca told him. At work, I'm helping people, and it feels good. But I keep thinking about all the parents out there like I was, working themselves sick with no hope in sight. What did you have in mind? Jack asked, leaning forward with interest. A support group, Rebecca said. For single parents who are struggling. A place where they can share resources, advice, and just know they are not alone. Maybe we could connect them with job opportunities, childcare services, even just meal assistance. I think that's a wonderful idea, Jack said. Thompson Technologies would sponsor it through the foundation. We could host meetings at the office, provide childcare during sessions, maybe even offer financial literacy classes. Rebecca's eyes lit up. Really? You do that? It's your vision, Jack said. I'm just providing the space. You'll run it. Within 3 weeks, Rebecca had organized the first meeting. She posted flyers at community centers, grocery stores, and laundromats throughout Austin. She wasn't sure anyone would come. 23 people showed up. They gathered in a conference room at Thomson Technologies on a Thursday evening. Rebecca stood before them, her hands shaking slightly as she looked at the tired, hopeful faces. 6 months ago, I collapsed from exhaustion in front of my daughters, she began. I was working 3 jobs, barely sleeping, and I thought I was doing everything right. But I was dying, slowly, trying to be strong enough for everyone. She shared her story, leaving nothing out. The fear, the shame, the constant anxiety about money. Then she told them about Jack's unexpected kindness and how it had changed everything. Someone gave me a second chance, Rebecca said. Now I want to help give you one too. People cried. They shared their own stories. A woman named Lauren talked about living in her car with her 2 kids. A man named David described working overnight shifts while his elderly mother watched his son. Each story was different but carried the same theme: good people struggling against impossible odds. We're going to help each other, Rebecca told them. Starting tonight. If you need a job, we have connections. If you need childcare, we'll figure it out together. If you need food, we'll make sure you get it. Nobody in this room has to face this alone anymore. Jack had stayed in the back, watching. As the meeting ended and people mingled, exchanging phone numbers and hugs, he approached Rebecca. You did an amazing thing tonight, he said. I just told the truth, Rebecca said, watching people connect. Someone once told me that sharing your story can inspire others. I'm finally understanding what that means. Over the next months, the group grew. Rebecca connected 12 people with jobs at various companies, including 3 positions at Thomson Technologies. She organized a meal share program and a childcare co-op. Most importantly, she created a community where struggling parents could find hope. One evening, Lauren, the woman who had been living in her car, approached Rebecca after a meeting. I got an apartment, Lauren said, crying happy tears. Because of the job you helped me find, I could afford first and last month's rent. My kids have their own beds now. Rebecca hugged her tightly. I'm so proud of you. I want to pay it forward, Lauren said. However I can help, I will. Rebecca smiled, thinking about how Jack's one act of kindness had created this beautiful chain reaction. That's exactly how we change the world, she said. One person helping another, who helps another, who helps another. It never ends. 5 months after Rebecca's collapse, life had settled into a beautiful rhythm. She loved her job, the support group was thriving, and her daughters were happier than she had ever seen them. Her relationship with Jack had deepened into something neither of them had labeled but both understood. Then the letter arrived. Rebecca opened it on a Saturday morning while the twins played in their room. As she read, the blood drained from her face. Her hand began to shake so badly the paper fluttered. No, she whispered. No, no, no. Grace appeared in the doorway. Mama, what's wrong? Nothing, baby, Rebecca said automatically, forcing a smile. Go play with your sister. But it wasn't nothing. The letter was from a lawyer representing Derek Mitchell, her ex-husband who had abandoned them 6 years ago. He was petitioning for joint custody of Grace and Hope. Rebecca called Jack immediately, her voice breaking. He was at her apartment within 15 minutes. He left us, Rebecca said, pacing her small living room while the twins played obliviously in their room. He walked away when they were babies and never looked back. No child support, no birthday cards, nothing. And now he wants custody. Jack read the letter carefully, his jaw tight. The hearing is in 4 weeks. We need to get you a lawyer immediately. I can't afford a custody lawyer, Rebecca said, panic rising in her chest. Those cost thousands. I'll handle it, Jack said firmly. Jack, I can't keep taking your money. This isn't about money, Jack said, looking at her intently. This is about protecting those little girls. You're going to fight this, and you're going to win, and I'm going to make sure you have the best legal representation possible. Rebecca sank onto her couch, tears streaming down her face. What if I lose them? What if the court thinks he deserves a chance? Jack sat beside her and took her hands. That's not going to happen. We have 5 months of documentation showing how you've provided for them, how you've built a stable life. We have neighbors who will testify, co-workers, the entire support group. But here's their father, Rebecca whispered. Being a father takes more than biology, Jack said. It takes showing up every single day. He has no idea who those girls are. You're their world. Over the next week, Jack connected Rebecca with Margaret Swenson, one of Austin's top family law attorneys. Margaret was a sharp woman in her 50s who had been practicing for 30 years. "Tell me everything," Margaret said in their first meeting. Rebecca detailed her marriage to Derek, his increasingly erratic behavior, his sudden departure, and the 6 years of silence that followed. She showed bank records proving she had received zero financial support. She presented school records, medical records, everything documenting her sole parenthood. "What changed?" Margaret asked. "Why is he coming back now?" "I don't know," Rebecca admitted. "The letter doesn't say." Margaret's expression hardened. "We'll find out at the hearing. In the meantime, I need you to document everything. Every interaction with the twins, every expense, everything. We're building a case that shows you are the only parent these children have ever known." News of the custody battle spread through Rebecca's community. The response was immediate and fierce. Patricia organized letter writing, and over 50 neighbors wrote statements supporting Rebecca. Christine and her co-workers at Thompson Technologies did the same. Members of the support group, people Rebecca had helped, came forward offering to testify. "I've never seen anything like this," Margaret told Rebecca during a preparation meeting. "Usually, custody cases involve two parents with competing claims. This is different. This is an entire community standing up and saying this woman is an exceptional mother, and we won't let anyone take her children." Jack attended every meeting with Rebecca, taking notes and asking questions. His presence steadied her when panic threatened to overwhelm her mind. "Why are you doing this?" Rebecca asked him one evening after the twins were asleep. They sat in her small living room, going over testimony preparations. "Because you matter," Jack said simply. "You and the girls, you matter to me." "We're not your responsibility," Rebecca said softly. "No," Jack agreed. "You're more than that. You're my family." The words hung in the air between them. Rebecca felt her heart skip. "Jack." "I love you," Jack said, the words coming out in a rush. "I've been falling in love with you since that first day in the hospital. Watching you rebuild your life, seeing how you care for your daughters and help others, spending evenings together. I can't imagine my life without you in it now." Rebecca's eyes filled with tears. "I love you too. But the timing is terrible, I know," Jack said with a sad smile. "But I needed you to know. Whatever happens at that hearing, you're not facing it alone." Rebecca leaned into him, and Jack wrapped his arms around her. They sat together in the quiet apartment, drawing strength from each other, preparing for the battle ahead. The day of the custody hearing arrived gray and drizzly, fitting Rebecca's mood perfectly. She wore a simple navy dress, and her hair pulled back. Jack held her hand in the courthouse hallway, Sophie and the twins safely at daycare. "You're going to do great," Jack said. "Just tell the truth." Margaret appeared, carrying 2 thick folders. "We're ready. Remember what we practiced." The courtroom was smaller than Rebecca expected. Judge Linda Morrison presided, a woman in her 60s with silver hair and sharp eyes. Derek sat at the opposite table with his lawyer, a young man in an expensive suit. Rebecca's breath caught when she saw Derek. He looked older, his hairline receding, but essentially the same man who had walked out on her. He didn't meet her eyes. The hearing began with Derek's lawyer making their case. He painted Derek as a man who had made mistakes but was ready to be a father now. He had a good job, a stable home, and claimed he had been dealing with mental health issues that prevented him from being present earlier. "My client regrets his absence," the lawyer said, "but is seeking to make amends and develop a relationship with his daughters." Margaret stood for cross-examination. Her questions were precise and cutting. "Mr. Mitchell, when was the last time you contacted your daughters?" "About 6 years ago," Derek admitted. "And when was the last time you provided financial support?" "I haven't been able to afford child support." "Yet you're currently employed making $75,000 annually, correct?" "Yes." "So you could afford it now, but chose not to seek a modification of support arrangements." Derek's face reddened. "I didn't know how to reach them." Their dress hasn't changed in 6 years, Margaret said coolly. What are your daughter's favorite colors, Mr. Mitchell? Derek hesitated. I don't know. Their favorite foods? Hobbies? Friends' names? What grade are they in? I don't know those things yet. Yet you believe you should have custody of children you know nothing about. The questions continued, each one revealing the vast distance between Derek and his daughters. When it was Rebecca's turn to testify, her voice shook at first but grew stronger as she spoke. She detailed every struggle, every sacrifice, every moment of the past 6 years. She talked about working 3 jobs, about collapsing from exhaustion, about her fear of failing her daughters. Then she talked about her recovery, her job, the community that had rallied around them. Grace and hope are my entire world, Rebecca said, tears streaming down her face. They've never known any parent but me. I've been there for every scraped knee, every bad dream, every first day of school. I've done it alone because I had to, and I would do it all again in a heartbeat. The parade of witnesses began. Patricia testified about Rebecca's character and devotion to her daughters. Christine spoke about her work ethic and compassion. Lauren, from the support group, described how Rebecca had helped her escape homelessness. Then Jack took the stand. What is your relationship to Ms. Mitchell and her daughters? Derek's lawyer asked. Rebecca is my neighbor, my employee, and someone I care about deeply, Jack said. The twins and my daughter Sophie are best friends. And you've provided significant financial assistance to Ms. Mitchell, correct? I've helped a neighbor in need, Jack said firmly. Something any decent person would do. Some might say you're trying to buy influence over these children. Margaret objected, and the judge sustained it. But Jack continued anyway. I've watched Rebecca sacrifice everything for those girls, he said. I've seen her work until she literally collapsed because she was so desperate to provide for them. She's the best mother I've ever known, and Grace and Hope are lucky to have her. Taking them from the only parent they've ever known would be cruel and wrong. The hearing lasted 4 hours. Finally, Judge Morrison called for a recess to review the evidence. The wait felt endless. When they returned to the courtroom, the judge looked directly at Derek. Mr. Mitchell, I've reviewed your petition carefully. While I appreciate that you may have been struggling with personal issues, the fact remains that you abandoned your children for 6 years. You provided no support, no communication, and no indication that you cared about their well-being. The evidence shows that Ms. Mitchell has been an exemplary single parent despite extraordinary challenges. The community support she has received and provided speaks to her character. Judge Morrison's gaze shifted to Rebecca. Ms. Mitchell, I'm granting you full legal and physical custody of Grace and Hope Mitchell. Mr. Mitchell's petition is denied. Furthermore, given the length of absence and his failure to maintain any relationship with the children, I'm ordering no visitation rights at this time. If Mr. Mitchell wishes to develop a relationship with his daughters in the future, he may petition the court after establishing consistent child support payments and completing family counseling. Rebecca collapsed into her chair, sobbing with relief. Jack wrapped his arms around her as Margaret squeezed her shoulder. Derek left the courtroom without a word, his lawyer following closely behind. Outside, in the courthouse hallway, Rebecca's entire support network waited. When Margaret emerged with the news, cheers erupted. Patricia hugged Rebecca, then Christine, then Lauren and dozens of others. You did it, Jack said softly in her ear. We did it, Rebecca corrected. All of us together. 6 months later, Rebecca stood in her new office reviewing grant applications. She had been promoted to Director of Community Outreach, and her support group had expanded to 3 locations across Austin. Over 200 families had participated, and the success stories kept coming. But the best story was our own. Jack knocked on her office door, holding 2 cups of coffee. Got a minute? For you, always, Rebecca said, smiling. They had been officially dating for 5 months now, though their relationship had been building long before they put a label on it. The girls were inseparable, and Sophie had started calling the twins her sisters. Rebecca's apartment sat empty now. She had essentially moved into Jack's house, though she maintained her lease for appearances. I want to show you something, Jack said, handing her a folder. Inside were architectural drawings for a house. A beautiful, sprawling home with 5 bedrooms, a huge backyard, and an office space. "What is this?" Rebecca asked. "Our house," Jack said. "If you want it to be. I had it designed with all 4 kids in mind. Sophie, Grace, Hope, and any future children we might have." Rebecca's breath caught. "Jack." He pulled a small box from his pocket and dropped to one knee right there in her office. "Rebecca Mitchell, you walked into my life covered in doubt and exhaustion, and you changed everything. You taught me that money means nothing compared to kindness, that success means nothing compared to community, that my comfortable life was actually empty until you filled it with purpose and love." Tears streamed down Rebecca's face as Jack opened the box, revealing a simple, elegant ring. "Will you marry me? Will you let me spend the rest of my life showing you and your daughters how much you're loved? Will you build this new life with me?" "Yes," Rebecca sobbed. "Yes, absolutely yes." Jack slipped the ring on her finger and stood, pulling her into a kiss that made her forget where they were. When they finally pulled apart, Christine was standing in the doorway, grinning. "Sorry, but everyone heard the proposal through the door," Christine said. "The whole floor is waiting for an answer." Rebecca laughed, wiping her tears. "Tell them it's yes." The wedding took place 3 months later in the same park where the neighborhood had held that first fundraiser for Rebecca. Over 300 people attended, a mixture of neighbors, co-workers, support group members, and friends. The entire community that had rallied around Rebecca now celebrated her joy. Sophie, Grace, and Hope served as flower girls, wearing matching lavender dresses and carrying white roses. They walked down the aisle together, grinning at the crowd. When the twins reached Rebecca, they hugged her tightly. "We love you, Mama," Grace whispered. "I love you both more than anything," Rebecca said. Jack stood at the altar in a simple gray suit, his eyes wet as Rebecca walked toward him in a flowing white dress. Patricia walked her down the aisle, having become like a mother to Rebecca over the past year. "You're the answer to my prayers," Jack said during his vows. "The family I didn't know I was searching for." "You saved my life," Rebecca said during hers. "Not just with money opportunities, but with kindness and faith in me when I had none in myself. You taught me that asking for help isn't weakness, but courage. That accepting grace isn't defeat, but wisdom." They exchanged rings, kissed, and turned to face the cheering crowd. The girls ran to them, and all 5 of them stood together, a newly formed family built on kindness, resilience, and love. At the reception, Rebecca gave a speech that left few dry eyes. "A year ago, I collapsed in my kitchen while my daughters watched in terror. I thought that was my lowest moment, my greatest failure. But it was actually the beginning of my greatest blessing. That moment brought an extraordinary man running to help a neighbor he didn't know. His kindness inspired a community. That community inspired a movement. And that movement is changing lives every single day." She looked at Jack, standing with all 3 girls. "I learned that sometimes we have to fall completely apart so God can build us into something stronger. Sometimes we have to lose everything to gain what really matters. And sometimes the greatest love stories start with someone simply choosing to help." Rebecca raised a glass. "To kindness, to community, to second chances, and to all of you who proved that goodness still exists in this world." The crowd cheered and clinked glasses. As the reception continued into the evening, with children running around and adults dancing, Rebecca stood beside Jack, watching it all. "Happy?" he asked, squeezing her hand. "More than I ever thought possible," Rebecca said. "You gave me everything." "No," Jack corrected, pulling her close. "You did that yourself. I just opened the door. You walked through it and built something beautiful. This life, this family, this community, all of it came from your strength and your heart." "Our strength," Rebecca said, leaning into him. "Our family, our future." They stood together as the sun set over Austin, surrounded by the community they had built, the children they loved, and the hope they had created. Rebecca thought about those terrified little girls who had run to a stranger for help, and how that moment of desperation had transformed into this moment of joy. She thought about all the parents in her support group who were still fighting their battles, and how she would keep fighting alongside them. She thought about every act of kindness she had received and how she would spend her life paying it forward. You know what the best part is? Rebecca said to Jack. What's that? This is just the beginning. Everything we've built, everyone we've helped, it's going to keep growing. The kindness keeps spreading. That's the real magic. Jack kissed her forehead. That's the real magic, he agreed. As night fell and the celebration continued, Rebecca danced with her daughters, laughed with her neighbors, and celebrated with her husband. She had fallen as far as a person could fall, and been lifted higher than she ever dreamed. And she would spend the rest of her life making sure others received the same gift of unexpected kindness, divine favor, and second chances that had transformed her world. The story of the single mom who collapsed and the billionaire who helped her would inspire countless others. But for Rebecca, it wasn't a story at all. It was simply life. Beautiful, surprising, grace-filled life. What's that? This is just the beginning. Everything we've built, everyone we've helped, it's going to keep growing. The kindness keeps spreading. That's the real magic. Jack kissed her forehead. That's the real magic, he agreed. As night fell and the celebration continued, Rebecca danced with her daughters, laughed with her neighbors, and celebrated with her husband. She had fallen as far as a person could fall, and been lifted higher than she ever dreamed. And she would spend the rest of her life making sure others received the same gift of unexpected kindness, divine favor, and second chances that had transformed her world. The story of the single mom who collapsed and the billionaire who helped her would inspire countless others. But for Rebecca, it wasn't a story at all. It was simply life. Beautiful, surprising, grace-filled life.